source money and how do they spend the money? How do they fund the budgets? How do ministries, departments, and agencies survive under this federal government led by President Bola Tinubu? You recall that about a week ago during the defense budget defense of the NDAs, the Senate threatened zero allocation to the Accountant General's office over what they considered, poor release of funds to MDAs. The Senate threatened to withhold the approval of the 2026 budget proposal of the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation over poor release of funds to ministries, departments, and agencies, and non-payment of contractors who we know have continued to, protest the monies owed to them. It was the Senate Committee on Finance who were querying the Accountant General of the Federation, Shamsuddin Ogujimi. The committee, chaired by Senator Sani Musa, declined to consider the 2026 budget proposal, citing widespread complaints about inadequate releases in the 2025 budget and outstanding liabilities carried over from 2024. According to the Senate committee chairman, says we are not going to take your budget until we are satisfied that your office is ready to do things that will make things work for Nigerians through expected assurances from you. The lawmakers were, frustrated that the budget was poorly implemented, the budget of 2025, which they said hampered government's operations and left contractors unpaid. This morning we read that the federal government has deferred 70% of the 2025 capital budget to 2026. 70% of the 2025 capital budget before the end of November as part of measures to, fast-track projects execution and clear outstanding obligations. It also stated that the remaining 70% has been rolled over into the 2026 capital budget to ensure seamless implementation. And this is, according to the directive to the ministries, departments, and agencies to comply strictly with the procurement rules in the execution and payment of capital projects under the extended 2025 budget cycle. This statement came from the Director of Press and Public Relations at the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, Bawa Mokwa, and said that the MDAs had been instructed to align fully with the Public Procurement Acts in implementing the 2025 and 2026 budgets. So yeah, people are wondering what's causing all of this, implementation deficits that we have seen with regards to how the federal government funds ministries, departments, and agencies. A lot of complaints have come the way, against the federal government with regards to whether or not they are funding these critical sectors that are supposed to be the engine of running a country like ours. You know that we heard that the Ministry of Health capital expenditure in 2025 was 36 million naira out of a huge budget that runs into billions that they had. The transportation sector also complained that they got only about 1% of what their budget allocations were. The Ministry of Works, they say, owe about 2.2 trillion naira to domestic contractors. And then we have NBET, who got about 60 million naira instead of about 800 billion naira budgeted to fund electricity tariff gaps and all whatnot. So Nigerians are wondering what's really going on with all the money saved from, fuel subsidy and all the, extra monies accruing to Nigeria from sources that they have internally generated revenue and or whatnot. Where are these monies going to if the Ministry of Health is only getting about 36 million naira in a year? Last year, the National Assembly approved $2.37 billion in external loans for the country to fund what they called the budget gap in 2025 and about 1.15 trillion naira in domestic borrowing. So if the federal government was going out to get all of these monies, why then are we having MDAs poorly, very poorly funded? So that's what we want to discuss this morning. Join us for the conversation.
This morning we are being joined by a public affairs analyst and environmental scientist in the person of Dr. Chigozie. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Chioma. Good morning, Yagazie, and good morning to our listeners.
Good morning, Doc. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be here once more.
All right, so maybe we'll begin the conversation from the impasse between the National Assembly, the Senate Committee that were scrutinizing the appropriation of budgets for 2026 and asking questions around what the Accountant General's Office has done in 2025 with regards to releasing monies for NDAs. What do you see in that regard? Do you think it's medicine after death for the National Assembly to have come in that regard and begin to threaten that they wouldn't allow monies for the Accountant General's office to be released in 2026, unless there are explanations as to why we have these poor fundings?
Yeah, thank you once more. When I saw the threat to the Accountant General of the Federation, I laughed. I said they were chasing the wrong person. Nigeria has a minister of finance,
Yeah.
Mr. Waledu, who should have been telling the National Assembly what has happened to Nigerian finances. Nigeria has a chief accounting officer who is the president and the commander in chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the commander in chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who should be answering questions about what has happened to the finances of the country. And they said, "Oh, why has these MDAs not funded in terms of their capital releases?" And you saw what the AGS said, Accountant General of the Federation said, "I can't release what I don't have. If I had the money, I would have released the money." And the question ended. In fact, one of the senators actually came in his defense and said, "Well, I think we are talking to the wrong person." The truth of the matter is that the Nigerian Senate is playing to the gallery. The Senate has abandoned its oversight function on the executive. And whenever the man who they should be asking questions come around, they start dancing on his mandate. On your mandate, they don't stand again. On your mandate, they dance now. So when he leaves, they go on television and tell us that he is doing very well. Yeah, because I had the laughter of my life yesterday when Adam Soshomole, Senator Adam Soshomole, who had appeared on television about a fortnight ago and said that things were doing very well, that the president was doing very well, that he had reformed the subsidy regime, had reformed the exchange rate, and that things were coming down, that government was doing everything, that Nigeria was turning into heaven. Only for us today, for the English letter Adam Soshomole to face the Minister for Finance and said he needed to. I'm sure if you saw it, probably would.
I didn't see.
He needed to play the.
It was dramatic.
Yes.
It was melodramatic.
Yes, because Adam Soshomole busted out saying, "See, Minister for Finance, if you remove subsidy, if you floated the naira, if you have saved money for all these things, and you are not funding the MDAs, where is the money? Tell us where the money has gone to." I busted into laughter.
So
I said, Adam Soshomole asking where the money had gone to. So it was entertaining, really, but a very serious matter. So why I was laughing was so Adam knew he was playing to the gallery when he was saying that everything was okay, and there and then in front of them was the Minister for Finance, Minister of State for Finance. And they couldn't make explanations that were acceptable to the appropriation committee. In fact, at a stage, it became so, like Chioma said, melodramatic that they had to shut the doors. They wanted to close the session. Because they told him that they were not understanding what he was saying. Adam, in addition to that, Adam said, with all the borrowings, because people need to hear that, with all the borrowings, where have the monies borrowed gone to? I said, "Oh, so these people know the truth. They just want to keep deceiving the voting masses to believe that their party is doing well, that the leadership of the country is doing well." So when they get into when the chips are down, they will begin to ask the real questions. They should have started asking these questions long time ago. So The Minister for Finance, Mr. Waledu, unfortunately was speaking a lot of technical jargons that didn't connect with the senators. He said going forward that the borrowings were going to stop, that they were going to stop borrowing from multilateral agencies. That means you stop borrowing from international organizations, World Bank, IMF, and all those organizations. Afrexim Bank, so French International Bank, and all those things, that they were going to concentrate on private funds. And the senators were asking where are private funds coming from? But the truth is that probably they are resorting to finance markets, floating bonds here and there to raise capital to do things. From the image we are seeing, from the financial dashboard we are looking at, it is obvious that unfortunately the Nigerian government is not able to meet the needs of the government and the people.
Is it the lack of the funds, or
well, I'll come to that.
I'll come to that.
So there are a couple of factors that I see. Though that the problem ostensibly is that government is opaque in financial dealings in Nigeria. The Nigerian government, both at the federal level and at the state levels, the local government levels, are opaque in the financial dealings. As we speak, you are not even sure of what has accrued to your local government in the past 2-3 years. If you ask questions, you'll be treated as a meddlesome interloper.
Crying too much.
The other day I listened to one of you interviewed the commissioner for budget here. He couldn't tell the people of Enugu how much has accrued to the Enugu state coffers from federation allocation and the internal generated revenue totaling, the total amount that had accrued to the people. And so that we could see whether what has been done was commensurate with the amount of money that had accrued to the state. That's the extent of opacity. It's even worse at the federal level. Once in a while, you will saw Mr. President, so we had met our non-oil revenue targets. Things we had turned the corner economically. Yet, we are not able to say how much had accrued to the federal government and how these monies were used and the state of finance of the country. We lived in Nigeria not long ago when Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was the Minister for Finance. She was displaying monthly economic dashboard of Nigeria, where immediately after the FAC allocation meeting, her ministry would display what had accrued to the federal government, how much had been disbursed, and how much each state in different elements of the allocation, because you have the statutory allocation, you have the allocation due to oil mineral producing, the percentage that was going to the oil mineral producing states. We had VAT allocations, we had all manners of environmental management funds, and all manners of funds, going to the different tiers of government. And if you went to the dashboard, you will see what was accruing to every state.
Showing transparency.
Yes,
more than
showing
the opacity that you're talking
That's
about.
what I'm saying. The opposite of what we have today. And at the end of the day, she will publish what the federal government was doing with her own part of the money, and the shortfalls that they were having, and the plans they were having to deal with the shortfall. At the stage, Nigeria was having surplus due to rise in crude oil prices. And she had proposed for these monies to be saved in a different fund for what is called the rainy days, when the oil price will go low, so that we'll make up from that. Some governors wanted to beat her up.
Yeah, the excess. They wanted.
Is that they were asking her, is the money your own? You share the money to all of us, we'll do whatever we want to do with our money. Sooner than later, the oil money started going south, and Nigeria started crying. That was the point where state governments couldn't pay salaries, because we had filtered away the monies when we had excess revenue. That's why, I don't want to go into the politics of that, because sometimes some people say, oh, this government did this and that. There was a time here that 2010, 9, 8, up to sometime 11, 12. Nigeria was getting excess revenue from crude oil. Governors were getting the money. Some governors were going to parties with their money. There was one governor in Enugu that was very popular. Needless to say, he was notorious for throwing dollars to women. Okay. And today people have forgotten about that. Once he say he did very well. I don't want to call.
So he's social events and all of that.
I said it was a known secret then that he had a retinue of special advisors special assistants who were women who were, they were throwing dollars around the Enugu state. But that's not the point we're making. So that we don't get carried away by
let's not digress, please.
So the point is that there was transparency at the time. We could see how the economy of the country was doing, at least if for nothing at the macro level. Fast forward to now, taken away in the name of politics. Nigeria plays politics with the finances of the country, ostensibly at the level of the presidency and the governors and the local government administrations in the country. Awesome. And that's the point I am making. You see, a president does 1 kilometer of the road, 10 kilometers of road, and rolls out drum to go commission 10 kilometers of road. A road that is supposed to run for 700 kilometers. We saw it happen in the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. And the argument started. Renan Mokri brought a drone to show that the road was up to 29 kilometers and not what was being said. And I shuddered at the argument we were furthering. It didn't show, and it still doesn't show a country that is serious, that you want to roll out drums and spend a huge amount of money in the ceremonies of commissioning a fraction of the project. And this happens also at the state levels. Before you know it, you see women wearing all manners of uniform. They roll out drums. They want to commission 200 meters of road. You were here when we have asked state officials, tell us how many kilometers of road that the government has constructed in the state. Nobody is able to give it. In fact, they ask you to go and ask the Commissioner for Works, and yet you want to speak for government. That shows the level of opacity. We'll be tired you if you ask people how much has accrued to the government and how much government has spent on a particular project and the process of procurement on the budget, on the projects. Also, that is on the larger omnibus now. Let's go down to what seems to be the problem, what we can conjecture to be the problem, because lack of transparency makes it difficult for you to say exactly what is going on.
I asked,
yes.
just to interject, I asked, is it that the funding is not coming because these monies
were
said to have been borrowed,
I'm coming to that.
Huge monies that could fund this capital budget.
I'm coming to that.
All right.
One of the biggest problems is corruption. So, Mr. President told us that the removal of subsidy will make a lot of money accrue to government. And a lot of persons believe so. That, of course, when governments stopped paying money for subsidies, monies will accrue. If you stop wasting money somewhere, assuming quote unquote, monies will accrue. And with the money accrued, and yet you were borrowing money. And yet, even the money we were getting from sale of crude oil was more in quantity, let me not say value. I'm being careful with that because of the devaluation of naira.
Yeah.
If you had sold $1 million worth of oil prior to 2023, if it amounted to say ₦1 trillion, but after 2023, it will amount to almost 2 trillion naira, close to that. So in quantity, more money was there, even when it could be illusion of value. So if more money has flown into government, the question becomes, what has been done with such inflows? Are there accountabilities to these inflows? That's one factor. Then the second factor is shortfall in the real revenue. You see, in playing politics, really, in playing politics, all you'll be hearing is that, oh, Mr. President has made more money available to the governor, so he has made more money available to Nigerians. So we should have more output, because we need to lay bare everything on the table. The truth of the matter is that part of it was illusion of money. That's the truth of the matter. The value that a million naira held prior to June 2023 is not the same value that a million naira holds today. In a country that has very low productivity, what it means that very many things that you use will be imported. So the impact of the exchange rate on the economy will be high. If you want to construct a kilometer of road, if it was costing, say, 50 million naira to do a kilometer of road in May 2023, you would not be able to do a kilometer of road with 70 million naira today. Ditto for other things that needed procurement of materials that came from outside the country. So beyond the politics and fanfare of the fact that, oh, more monies have been made available, the question becomes, what is the real value of the money? What can it do? And instead of the managers of national economy to sit down and tell themselves the hard truth, they will prefer to, they call it our right to brag. Beyond the right to brag, have you seen that the figures you are banding in terms of inflation, the figures you are banding in terms of economic growth, figures you are banding in terms of monies you have made, cannot translate into microeconomic positive development in the country? People are still shouting that we are suffering. We cannot afford housing. We cannot afford transportation. We cannot afford good food. We cannot afford education. Basic health care. Electricity is not, it's dwindling every day. Yet, we still sing about it that things are okay. I saw Reno Mokri this on television. Not because he had been made an ambassador, saying that petrol was inexpensive in Nigeria. I was shocked. Not because Reno said so, but he had the God to say it on a TV that was being beamed globally, that petrol was inexpensive, trying to beat the drum of Mr. President. He could have said things in more decent way. In use of English, if you, I mean, you can accept challenges and say things in more acceptable, more benign, and being empathetic to the feelings of the people. But no, they just push it on your face, whatever you like, you take. So the problem is that there's illusion of money. The revenues have not come up with the rate of devaluation that we have had in the economy. So even when they sing those things, they are not able to solve problems. By the time you talk about the recurrent expenditure, you are left with very little money to fund the capital expenditure. That's two. The third one is the lack of money is coming from what was budgeted. The difference between budgeted income and what really accrues to government, it's closely related to revenue shortfall, lack of revenue. But I want to pin this down to what is happening with the NNPC. NNPC manages Nigerian oil sector, and it's been shown to be a very big conduit pipe on the economy. And yet, the president and presidency have lost the courage to call to question the NNPC, probably because of politics of 2023 and what may happen in 2027. In the sense that some rumor that the management of NNPC usually funnel money to fund political campaigns in Nigeria.
The president just did something regarding NNPC.
I'm coming. We'll come to that.
Okay.
It's important. We'll come to that.
All right.
So oftentimes, what Nigeria will say will budget to get X million dollars from oil. At the end of the day, it is what NNPC get sends to the federation account that you get. Let's push up a little bit about of what comes. I'll come back to that issue you're talking about. Then the other issue is about over-assumptions in the budget, also closely related to revenue. Over-assumptions in the budget in the sense that we assume that we're going to do 2.01 million barrels per day. But in real fact, we are doing about 1.5 million, 1.6 million barrels per day. So you see that you
were overly optimistic.
Yeah, you were overly optimistic in your budget assumptions. So at the end of the day, you have serious shortfall. But also, very importantly, the fact that our cost to income ratio at the NNPC level is very high, and the oil sector. What do I mean? The cost of producing crude in Nigeria is among the highest globally. Countries like Angola, Guinea. I don't want to go to Saudi Arabia. They're able to cut down the cost of production to less than $30 per barrel. Saudi Arabia does about $25 per barrel, sometimes less than that. More developed countries do less than $20 per barrel. Nigeria does about $45 to $50 per barrel. And you can tie this back to corruption and inefficiency in the system. And so there are a lot of reforms that are supposed to be done on the oil sector, because Yagazie and Chioma, the truth of the matter is that Nigeria still ostensibly depends on proceeds from crude oil in order to fund her budget. We mouth diversification. We mouth progress in the non-oil sector. We mouth progress in the solid mineral sector. The manufacturing sector now contributing to the economy. If you face the facts, beyond the data manipulations that are going on, the fact is that most of our revenue that is needed to fund the budget is hinged on the income from the oil proceeds.
All right, Dr. Maru, I want to bring your mind back to how we started and talked about the budget defense coming in, and then we made mention of poor release of funds and the non-payment of contractors, and with the government recording huge revenue from the removal of fuel subsidies, and we also not forget that is being recorded as well. And then with these people being owed, I'm not even going to what's happening in the electricity sector. We heard that they are being owed about 4 trillion naira.
No, it's going to 6 trillion.
Oh, it's going to 6 trillion by the end of February of 2026.
End of February to be 6.6
yes,
trillion.
about 6.6 trillion.
According to
then,
Mrs. Yagazie.
Yes, so if you look at all these things, and then we are not even forgetting the fact that we have about 3 budgets running concurrently in Nigeria.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you look at this, what does this say about the sort of governance that we are witnessing at this point? Because before now, I don't think we've heard about any government running 3 budgets at the same time, especially the capital budget.
Chioma, I don't know what you mean by diaspora remittances. I don't know how money is that.
I think about last year there was a report that was released that the diaspora remittances was huge.
No, let me explain.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
diaspora remittances is not about it's not about money that are accrued to the coffers of government. Diaspora remittances ostensibly talks about the money that flows into the economy.
And helps with forex.
So yes, of course. It may include monies that probably your relative in diaspora outside Nigeria sends to you directly. Probably monies that are in form of FDI, foreign direct investments that come in. It does not necessarily mean revenues accruing to the coffers of government, because what government needs to work with are revenues that accrue to the purse of government. GDP and remittances are different things that come into the pot of the total economy of Nigeria. Good money, you talked about good money accruing for removal of subsidy. Only the president and the minister for finance can account for the monies that have accrued to government and why they have not used the money to actually solve problems. Like I said, opacity is part of the things we are dealing with. As we speak, Nigerian government is not able to meet up her responsibilities in governance of the country. We play politics more than governance. You have just said it. The local contractors are being owed, at the last count, over 2.2 trillion naira. You can imagine contractors that borrowed money from financial institutions to execute projects for government. And government is now playing politics with those projects that they've executed. Yet, as of 2024, projects contained in 2024 budget, the contractors have not been paid.
And they're paying interest on these loans.
They're going to pay interest on these loans. And if these monies have not come into circulation, the economy is wired in such a way that when these contractors get paid, monies flow into the economy. The people who are suppliers and engineering procurement people get their monies, and monies go down to the woman selling food on the street and the households, and you see money circulating in the economy. So it comes back to what you said. 2024 capital budget has not been implemented with fidelity up to date. The budget is still set to be running. Whether it is running truly, we do not know. 2 days ago, we had the Minister of State for Finance undertake that, by latest by Monday, that they will start paying contractors as of 2024 budget. You can imagine that. So government doesn't want to come out to actually explain what is happening with our finances and to accept where government is running into deficits.
And that could actually trickle down to the sort of project that they may be executing. I mean, if they don't have all the funds, you could lead them to do.
No, so how do we know that they don't have all the funds? You have to come out clear on the table and say what you have and what you don't have. If you tell us that you have met a revenue and you have got this, you have got that, why are we not seeing them? And that's why the last of Ada Sociolo was saying that with the revenue, with the monies you have borrowed, where is the money? Mind you that this government has borrowed more money than the governments of Yaradua, Goodluck, Buhari put together. It is quick for them to say, oh, Buhari caused problem. They have borrowed money more than the 3 successive presidents put together. Our loan, I don't know how many trillion it is running into now. As the last count, I think we're talking about 185 trillion. You know. Yet we are on the table to borrow more. Nigeria is going to borrow more because there's no option than to borrow. So the 2025 budget, just like Yagazie was saying, the Minister of Health has got 36 million out of 250 billion or so. So how do you fund the hospital budgets, the health projects? The other day, a young lady, who was popular with her songs and singing, died because she couldn't get anti-snake venom in the Federal Capital Territory. And the minister for FCT is telling anybody that who wouldn't vote for Tinubu should not bother to. And only supporters of Tinubu will win the FCT local council election coming up tomorrow. That is the brazen nature of the leadership and politics we play today. So we are not talking about 2026 budget. That's why I mean, this is February. By law, you probably can run the budget even without passage of the budget up to June of the year. So the National Assembly has not even finished dealing with the budget. The fact is that if this government were to be serious, the government will come to the table and explain to Nigerians what is going on and begin to deal with the issues that militate against monies coming into the coffers of government. So the government can meet up project. Like I say, you and I were talking about the NNPC and the executive order issued by Mr. President yesterday. Mr. President signed an executive order mandating monies that are supposed from accrued to profit oil, tax oil, royalty oil to come straight, and gas, of course, like Chioma said, oil and gas revenue that's accrued to the country to go straight to the federation accounts, the CBN, instead of going to the NNPC. That's a desperate move.
Bengelson has said,
I'm coming to that. Yeah. It's a desperate move to see how to show up revenues accruing to government and see if they can find money to actually implement the bogus budget. You saw that the Senate was threatening to cut the 58.47 trillion budget if they were not convinced that 2025 budget was going to be implemented, or the reason why it was not implemented, irrespective of the borrowing, huge amount of money that was supposed to be available to government, and they were asking where the money was. Also, that executive order, as good as it sounds on the surface, I am afraid it is an indirect collusion with the PIA, the Petroleum Industries Act.
It is. Some people have pointed that out, saying what's the essence of what has been signed in the petroleum industry.
I mean, we have been struggling to get out the oil and gas sector from the doldrum by getting the Petroleum Industries Act passed. Finally, the act has been passed, and we are at the stage of transitioning from what used to be to what the act actually prescribes. You know, NPC used to be government would it used to be. Now it's a limited liability company. That's why it's NPC now. It used to be corporation that was running the affairs of government, so to say. But it has been difficult for NNPC to actually win itself of the government holder and become a limited liability company and play as
Independent.
in the independent company in the field. Yes, NNPC would get the monies that were supposed to be accruing to government as royalties, as tax oil, as profit oil from the joint venture participants. At the end of the day, NNPC declares what it thinks should be the dividend of government and the money that should go to government. And Mr. President is saying no. We want all these monies to go into the federation account. But Section 64, subsection 1, 2, 3, 4 of the Petroleum Industries Act, unfortunately, vests the NNPC, as it were, with the powers to deal with those transactions, collect the royalty oil and the monies from there, collect the royalty tax and the monies belong to government, and collect the profit oil and monies, you know, and remit to government after certain responsibilities that must have been met. NNPC from the PIA is supposed to fund the frontier basin development with 30% of the profit oil. Profit oil is, in simple terms, you know, almost always the international oil companies produce the oil in joint agreement with the NNPC. There are so many kinds of agreements. We won't go into that now. At the end of the day, what is supposed to be profit accruing to Nigeria is given to Nigeria in terms of crude oil. There's an arm of NNPC that's responsible for managing the crude oil and I'm responsible for selling the crude oil. NAPIMS is the Nigerian Petroleum Investment Management Services. It's supposed to say how much crude oil comes out from Nigerian waters and land every day. It is what NAPIM says that we have produced is what we have produced. Right. If we have produced 100 barrels and NAPIM says we have produced 50 barrels, the government takes it to be 50 barrels. Unfortunately, everywhere in the world, we have electronic gadgets that are attached to oil wells, where you can even sit in the presidency and see how many liters of crude that is coming out from the oil wells. But till date, NAPIM's officials sit down there, they go to the wells, sit down, and what they record on paper that Nigeria has produced is what we have produced.
All right, so please let's go for a news break. When we return, we'll continue the conversation. Thank you so much for a lot of insights into this particular issue. We'll be right back after the news break.
News update in 94.5 seconds. I am Chioma Onwuasomba. The Commissioner of Police and Imo State Commander Audu Garba has paid his first official courtesy visit to Ezimo, His Royal Highness Eze Isi Okeke, and members of the State Council of Traditional Rulers at the Eze's Palace in Owerri. The Kebbi State Police Command has confirmed the killing of 33 persons following an attack by suspected bandits on View District in Irawa local government area of the state. The African Democratic Congress ADC has strongly criticized President Bola Tinubu over his swift approval of the Electoral Act amendment, describing the move as a serious setback for Nigeria's democracy. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission ICPC yesterday raided the residence of former Governor of Kaduna State Material Verify. Former Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo has commended Abia State Governor Alex Oti for purposeful, people-centered leadership that is repositioning the state for sustainable growth and prosperity. In sports, the Super Falcons of Nigeria will open camp in Yaoundé, Cameroon, next Wednesday ahead of their double-header friendlies against the Indivisible Lionesses of Cameroon. On entertainment, Davido's elder sister and chief financial officer of Davido Music Worldwide, Sharon Adeleke Adenifun, has shared a light-hearted moment from her marriage with a warning about relationships. You're up to the minutes in 94.5 seconds. I am Chioma Onwuasomba.
Capital of the Southeast to the world.
This is 94.5 Urban Radio News Break.
Keep your brand or business ahead of the competition on Urban Radio 94.5 FM. For advert placement, announcements, program sponsorship, and other businesses, contact the marketing department on 0806 367
We use AI often.
or
Ah, because you talk.
521 3284 0812 112 6788.
O generator onwe ebe ọ na
Oh, it's AI, the guy, I'm as the real, AI, the real. It's crazy. All right, welcome back to the Urban Parliament on Urban Radio 94.5 FM. Today we're looking at issues around fiscal discipline by the federal government of Nigeria and how they've gone about funding ministries, departments, and agencies since this administration assumed office. And it's not been looking so bright from the analysis we've gotten so far with our guest, or from our guest, Dr. Yagazie and Narado, and we were speaking just before the break. You know, when I mentioned that headline in the morning that Tinubu's executive order promises that federal government, states, and local governments allocation will increase by about 15 trillion naira. You know, it's maybe excited me in some way. You know?
it's audio money.
No, because you know, I
I'll
believe that
tell
there's
you
a lot
that.
of corruption in the NNPC.
I agree, but
And-
it's still audio money.
It's still audio money.
Why
I'll
you say
tell you.
so?
I'll tell you. I was explaining that. I was explaining to you that it is what Napping says that we produce that we produce, right?
Yeah.
And I told you about cost to profit ratio. That the cost of producing crude in Nigeria is very high. So we are looking at probably the crude oil is selling at probably around $69 per barrel now. Sometimes you'll not be surprised if it gets to $50 per barrel. By the time it shrinks beyond $50, you're almost talking about the cost of production. So what this will do, like apart from the fact that it's colliding, this order is colliding with the Petroleum Industries Act. It is left for the lawyers to sort out which is a superior law.
Yeah.
The act of the parliament and the executive order, which is a quasi law from the presidency. I won't go into that. But the other thing is this, that even with the executive order, if the president does not go into the forensic audit of the NNPC, we are joking in this country. As it is, if it has been projected that 15 trillion now will accrue, we'll watch and see as time goes on. You see that projection will not come to fruition, because at the end of the day, NAPIM's science agreement with joint venture agreement, production sharing contract agreement, what they call PSC, with the production companies. What they agree is the cost of production is the cost of production. If at the end of the day they return 75% or 80% as the cost of production, then we are getting 20% as what is accruing to government. In that, even when you get that 20% into the federation account, that money cannot be shared immediately. There is supposed to be money that are supposed to be used to fund the frontier basins, the lower and upper Benue oil basins, the Komani basin, And with the way politics is played in this country, if you don't fund the exploration activities in those basins, politics will come in. Because that's only hope of, I mean, beyond the gas, that kind of gas that is found somewhere in Yola, I think, what's it called?
Burn.
Adamawa State.
Oh, okay.
Adamawa State. Then the Komani in somewhere around Bauchi and which other state that it borders. Then coming down, there are frontier bases are not only in the north. There are certain onshore oil that are frontier basin oils that you need to fund the exploration and discovery and the development. If they are not funded, then, like I said, politics will kick in. That's another matter for another day. Because people who are not from the Niger Delta, and there are oil in Ondo and Ogun that are not
Exploited.
yes, deep water oil, and so those they will start kicking. They will start kicking. So government will be forced to fund these things, and the PIA has recommended that 30% of the profit oil should be used in funding the frontier basin development, and some other host communities funding that is supposed to come from the profit oil as prescribed by the PIA. So there are collisions, but beyond this clash of interest, the major problem is that if the corruption in NPC is not dealt with, government, yes, the president has signed the executive order that the monies will not accrue to the federation account. It is what NNPC says should accrue to federation account, it will be what will accrue to federation account. So the president, I recommend, should actually sit down to sort out what is going on in the upstream sector of the Nigerian crude oil industry, because so we'll know what is the responsibility of the upstream regulatory commission. And again, NNPC should be broken down. NNPC is doing so many things. NNPC should be broken down, and some of the responsibilities of NNPC should be taken away from it and give it to an agency that will actually manage the responsibilities, so that NNPC can deal with some defined responsibilities. NNPC cannot be dealing with upstream issues, exploration issues, midstream issues, managing the gas proceeds, then dealing with downstream issues that deal with the refineries. And yet, none of these is working efficiently. That's why you see people are trying to kill each other in order to get into NNPC. Because once you get into NNPC, it is as good as having made humongous amount of money that nobody can question. And yet, presidents that come and go have not had the courage to question the managers of the NNPC. Melikere is there now. President Tinubu has not had the will to actually call to question what happened in the era of Melikere, because the belief out there is that Melikere put money in funding the campaign. I don't know whether it is true or not, but the body language of the leaders show that they are not ready to actually ask tough questions about what has happened to Nigerian money, which NNPC ostensibly has managed in the past year. So we need to restructure NNPC, break it down. Then we need to do forensic audit of what is going on in the upstream sector of the economy and clean the table there, so Nigeria will know how much he earns and actually go ahead to earn that money that he should earn from the oil resources.
Despite the fact that the president is the minister for petroleum.
And the president is the minister for petroleum resources. That's right, Chioma. So we play around the truth, and we'll focus more on the politics rather than dealing with the issues of development in the economy.
All right, a lot of questions, especially as we have seen that this executive order will come in conflict with the PIA. Tengosin has said, what are we telling the investors with this kind of executive order?
That's what
it
it is.
Telling the international community that just one executive order can set aside the law of the land.
It will chase away investors that want to invest in Nigerian oil sector, because it means that we don't obey the laws.
All right.
When you wake up one morning and issue an executive order obliterating what has been provided for in the law where people are trying to see how to invest in.
All right.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mara. We'll go for a quick break and return. We'll open up the talk lines and allow parliamentarians to call in and contribute. Please stay with us.
It's not serious.
On Parliament on 94.5 Urban Radio. In today, we are looking at the federal government and the fiscal discipline, and we're looking at how effectively the federal government has managed public funds and how does this impact on our inflation, national debt, public spending, and everyday Nigerian. And we still have Dr. Chigozie who has ostensibly looked at this conversation critically. And it's time for our parliamentarians to call in and their views. 0916 0005945 or 0916 0004945. Send your messages to our WhatsApp line 09128
Hello, good morning. Good morning. Welcome, Robert. Go ahead.
In fact, Nigeria this morning, but our problem is mismanagement of our funds. Our president put our money where it's not necessary to put our money. And the so-called governors, they gain the administration of because it pushes them money every month. Some governors are not making use of the money. I don't know where they don't put the money. Look at the type of roads they are building for us. To go to Obinwanne, they are needing iron on the road. What does that one mean? It's not extravagant money because we can never make such road. But that's when that road will be expired. People, the motorists will be a problem. How can you lay iron on the road in the name of you are doing the road? That's what this is an extravagant money you are spending by the Ministry of Works. So coming to what is happening this country today. I don't understand. I never wake up in the morning, hear the positive news from our government. What we are hearing is this and that. And I'm have to blame the National Assembly. They are not doing anything for the country of Nigeria. And it's that a policy that's made by our president, they will not. But I've been checking good or bad. All those things, I don't know. Are we going to continue like this? Whose government are going to this country so that everybody will laugh? Also, other countries are supposed to come to Nigeria to borrow money, not really to go to another country to borrow money. Now, how much is MFP elsewhere in the market? We don't think that any 700 and something. But here and we are buying 800 and something. How much is MFP fuel in the market? Are they still supplying fuel to this country of Nigeria? I want people to ask me this, answer this question. Whether MFP whether they are still working. Because we don't hear the whole price. We only hear that to the price. How much is NYPC price? That's the question everybody's supposed to ask. Tumbu, you are not getting the well for the nation of Nigeria. Thank you, 95. Thank you.
Thank you, Babotu, for calling in. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, are you there? Good morning. Yes, good morning. Your name and location.
Yes, can you speak up? Hello?
Yes.
Good morning. Alright, do want to call back, sir. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir, Chibage, for that people's analysis. And I'm one of the persons that was optimistic that Mr. President meant well for Nigerians following the removal of fuel subsidy. But I must tell you the truth. With all these things coming up now, I'm highly disappointed, okay? Especially with the budget implementation, okay, that the Senate is now doing. Despite that the Senate has not lived up to their responsibility, I'm one of the persons that like to criticize Senate, despite that we have majority of them all APC. But you can't use because of party and forget governance of the people, okay? They say in their oversight function, okay? So I don't actually blame what Mr. President is doing. Because if you could listen to one of the time that Mr. President was in place, even told a shade to them that the democracy is being prevented from the Senate, but it's a shade that he told to them. So it's left for them to live up to their expectation, their responsibility, and their duty. Then coming to another thing again, we can never exonerate the governors, despite whether the money has value or not, because even when the money has value, we see majority of this government owing salary, not building all this infrastructure that you see most of them engaging in. So what I'm also asking is that they are also part of the governors are also part of the economic tree. So in whole Nigeria's explanation, one of the problems I have with this government, actually with Mr. Tinubu, he has good intention, but the communication to the people is what is lacking. If there is anything that they have done with the money, they should be telling us, like you mentioned during Okonjo-Iweala, there was transparency, accountability, even to the extent of that woman doesn't mind when the economy is trying to move into it. And I'm saying, look, our economy is trying to move into a recession. So she was up and there telling Nigerians what is happening. So I expected the same from a president that has been once a governor, a senator, which I believe that how the king angles and the institution of this economy. So he owes Nigeria an explanation. Let the governors also start doing something. They are wasting our funds. That is the real truth.
All right. Thank you for calling in, Miss Mitugo. Hello, good morning.
Good morning,
Good morning, sir.
Hello. Lost connection with Chief on the call. We'll take more calls. 0916 0005 or 0916 004945. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
The inevitable work, my brother.
Putin is right. But the question I want to ask is this. Does this anomaly start in the present administration? Or did they start far back, even during military? We talk of NNPC. You said it, yes. Once you get into NNPC, you become a different person in Nigeria. So the corruption didn't start today.
And it must
I
continue.
believe that the present government is doing a lot to checkmate all those spaces. Yet we don't have an iota of praises to President Tinubu. What else? No one person can rule this country. So President Tinubu is a president. He's not a minister. He's not palm sake. He cannot be alone to fight corruption. Where everybody that is aspiring for political position is just going there to enrich him or herself. So at times, we say the truth. We don't remember how it all started. Corruption started ages long before this address. So to fight it and then stop it, it may not be too easy to stop it in one time. I believe the administration is doing a lot. Talk of the budget. The budget cycle, when did it start? Even from Jonathan. The present year fiscal was never finished. We don't blame some states because it is the same thing that is running at the federal level that is running at the state and local government level.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, Yagazie.
Sir Bernard, good morning to you. Turn down the volume on your radio set, please.
Yes, is it okay now?
Sounds better. Go ahead.
Yes, I greeted Chioma.
Good morning, Savannah.
Chioma, I greet you. And my very good friend, Dr. Nana. Look,
Good morning, sir.
anybody giving excuses, saying that he started since when his grandfather was born and everything, that is no excuse. It's no excuse. We know. Why did you come? Why did you even say you want to? Did anybody apply for you? Is it the citizens that applied for APC to come and rule us? You applied. You have known the problem on ground, and you are part of it. It started since for long. Even APC had done 8 years. They are now completing another 4 years. Then they want to make it 16 years. The problem, yes, is there. But you know it's there. And you choose to come and solve it. Mind you, your mantra is renewed hope. We don't need any excuse. Nobody needs any excuse from any individual. Whether you are drumming for APC or not, you are wasting your time. The important thing is that Nigerians want is that we did not beg you to come and put things right. Since you have chosen to come and put things right, please do it. That is what Nigerians want from you.
All right, Savannah, thank you for calling in 0916 0005 Let's see if we can take another call before we read your messages on our WhatsApp line. Good morning. 0916 0005 Hello.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
You picked the call. Okay.
All right. We'll take a look at the messages on WhatsApp.
This one says, good morning, Urban Radio. Decades after Chinese reform, scores of people were killed in the 1989 protest. Our reform is just 3 years. No non-partisan analysts will not give them due credit. We need family from independence and layout, okay? Good morning. The government deliberately do not want to be honest about the finances right now because of 2027 election. Talking about it by pressure groups can force them to be transparent. Peter from Abakaliki. Okay. Wonderful analysis from the analyst. The problem with Nigeria is corruption, which has eaten deep into every sector of the economy. Interestingly, the executive arm at all levels are neck deep in it. Government are not transparent with their spendings. The legislative arms of government have jettisoned their oversight function due to corruption. The problem with Nigeria is corruption. Unless that is killed, we are not moving forward. Single COB, okay? Thank you very much, Dr. Anardo. Very brilliant analysis. Unfortunately, we have an executive that has been reckless, and no organ of government is equipped or prepared to checkmate such excesses. Okay, we agree that there has been monumental corruption in NNPC over the past 16 years or more. The question is, who have been the ministers of petroleum? The answer is the different presidents over those years. But who will probe past presidents on the issue of NNPC? Our National Assembly, who should have been asking questions, are part of the problem. They collect handouts from NNPC and subsidiaries and then look the other way. Joseph Okuchukwu from Enugu. We'll get back to you, Dr. Nara.
Dr. Narada,
Okay.
now to wrap up this conversation.
We had a question from
Yeah, we'll thank,
Eke.
we'll thank our callers and our people who sent SMS and people who tried to call and couldn't call and couldn't get in. That's why it's a discussion, it's a parliament. You see, I want to declare clearly that I don't have any partisan intention. I'm saying this because there was one Olufemi that sent a text and said, no partisan analysts will not give them credit. Olufemi, our reform is not just 3 years. We have been reforming since, at least I remember, since 1985. If you remember the SAP days, I mean, I don't know how the person is, but the structural adjustment people that started with the Babangida will claim to be reforming the economy. In fact, even from the Buhari military era, we claim to be reforming. And at the end of the day, Nigerians will get the shorter end of the stick. Our job is to actually call government to action. It's not about partisanship or criticism. Our job is not to clap for government. And I take it back to Weke that we're not giving praises. Okay, our job is not to give praises to government. It is to actually analyze critically and objectively what government has done and see where there are problems in what government has done and what needs to be done in order to engender better society. If you are an Ozana man, want to clap for anything government does, what you are doing is to help make a monster out of that government, because the government goes to sleep thinking it has done well. Weke asked question. He has always asked this question. Is it today that he started? Weke, are you now saying, my dear friend, that because an abnormally did not start today, we should go and sleep and swallow the abnormally? And unfortunately for you, President Bola Tinubu said clearly, repeatedly, that he applied for the job, that he didn't want and he doesn't want anybody to pity him, that if he fails to do the job, that should be held responsible. In one of the campaign clips, the video is viral. He said that if he didn't give Nigeria electricity, the Nigerians should not vote for him. And I'll ask you, what is the state of electricity in Nigeria from 2015 to now? We hear propaganda. In about 20 years, we hear that we had generated up to 13,000 megawatts and we could only transmit about 5 to 5,500 megawatts. Today, we are now going to town celebrating that we generated 5,000 megawatts. We could only transmit 4,000 megawatts. 2 to 4,000. So I'm sure the national grid collapsed yesterday. Are you aware? And that's about the 4th collapse in 2026. And we're about to get into election. And the question will be, has Mr. President given Nigerians electricity? Have we had a significant improvement, irrespective of the raise in tariff? The truth of the matter is that, with the risk of sounding too critical, it does look like this government has been too profligate with Nigerian resources. The facts are out there in poverty. I just mentioned the Nigerian. Where in the world would you see a young lady die out of snake bite because we don't have an anti-snake venom in a capital city? That country should be shut down. Anti-snake venom that you should find in what do you call it? Primary health center. Primary health center. They were going from hospital to hospital. You couldn't get it in the capital city. I have a relative who died yesterday. She probably had thrombosis from what they are explaining. They needed to get her to tertiary hospital. They moved from Luth. In Luth, they didn't have bed space. They went to Lasut. They didn't have bed space. They went to another hospital. There was no bed in the hospital. Bed. By the time they got into the fourth hospital, it was too late. By the time they were wheeling her to the theater, she had given up the ghosts. It can only happen here. Hospital bed space. And we want us to roll out the drum and clap for our leaders. I mean, the politicians are not thinking about the interests of Nigerians. That's why everybody is struggling head over toes to get into power. They don't want to get into power for the purpose of service. They want to get into power to acquire mundane wealth that 5 generations of children would benefit from at the expense of their own society, including the expense of themselves, because it is foolishness. Sometimes some of them, they die out of accident due to bad road that they should have fixed when they were in power. A country that doesn't have electricity, what is it going to do with that, with the economy of that country? And so, my brothers, it's not about who is in power. It's about telling the person, look, if we had managed the monies we spend in renovating the residence of the vice president, the money that we use in buying yachts, the money that we throw around carrying one brigade to the other, the money that we used to bribe our way in national assemblies, allegedly, to get some bills that are of questionable interest passed. I mean, we had what happened during the River State emergency crisis, and dollars were shared. Whether it is true or not, I don't know. But if we had a prudent government, this government doesn't look like it is prudent. Anybody who knows it's prudent should actually come and tell us. If we had a prudent government, the resources that accrue to Nigeria should have been better managed. Isn't it true? I didn't intend to exonerate the government or stand in for them, because I talked about monies having low value. Even the ones they have not accounted for. I have not spent them. Even the internal generated revenue, the tax that they ramp on the same people who have been victims of national economic mismanagement, and they have no empathy on the people and ramp up taxation on them. They have not shown transparency in the way they manage the money. I said, even the local government, if you listen to me, I even called out the local government. If you go to any local government and ask questions, they will start chasing after you that you're a troublemaker, just because you want accountability of what has happened to your money. And so it shouldn't be heard that Nigeria is broke, because that's the word that they don't want to pronounce. They don't want to pronounce that the Nigerian government is broke. If a government cannot fund health capital budgets in 2025 that has passed, so we're not talking about 2026. We are not talking about the release as of February 2026. In 2025 that has passed, if Nigeria cannot pay, is looking for money to pay contractors in the projects that they did in 2024. Like I say, I want to emphasize the way we treat contractors. I worked with an organization where an American was the head. Okay. John McCarthy told me I was a procurement administrator there, and as an early starter. He said, there was a way I was looking at contractors. One day, of course, in his pronunciation, he said Chikose. That's the way he pronounced my name. Okay. Chikose, you have to be very careful with the contractors. You need to treat them very nicely, because they are partners to our success plan. If they fail to deliver the engineering parts, our plants will shut down. Instead of you not to treat them well, don't treat the staff well. it has stuck in my head ever since. Because we live in a country where you go to an organization, if you're a contractor, they treat you with disdain. This man has come to look for money. Forgetting the fact that you are a partner in their success plan. Government cannot construct roads without contractors actually delivering quality roads and on time. Ditto for all other infrastructures and projects of government. Yet, the government leaves the partners to go borrow money from financial institutions 2 years after you have not paid the money. Well, have you ever seen in Nigeria where contractors were demonstrating? The GenCos generate electricity. The monies that the distribution companies generate, they are supposed to buy electricity from the bulk electricity company. If the bulk electricity company have been selling if he has been selling that electricity, has he been generating enough money? Where is the money? If government is undertaking to pay subsidy shortfalls, why has he accrued? If the generation companies shut down, you blame them for shutting down because you realize you forget that they need to pay the gas companies.